David 2 Central.
Go ahead, David, too.
Can you show me 1041 and put me out on a detail patrolling for recruits?
10-4, I'll sign you out.
Welcome back for another episode of Patrolling for Recruits, and I'll be your host today, Chris Haglin. I am the Captain of Investigations at the Holland Department of Public Safety, and today we're here speaking with two former cadets at the Holland Police Department who are now officers with the Holland Department of Public Safety. I'm joined by Officer Spencer DeGraff.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And Officer John Osborne, who is a return member to our Patrolling for Recruits podcast.
Thanks for the opportunity there, Chris.
You're welcome. So we're going to talk a little bit about your time as a cadet at the Holland Department of Public Safety and kind of explain to some of our listeners what are some of the qualifications that are needed to be a cadet, and then what are some of the job functions and, I guess, expectations of when you take on a position as a cadet with Holland PD. So, Officer DeGraff, I'm going to ask you, as a cadet, what are some of the job functions that you perform on a daily basis?
So most times during the day, it's a lot more administrative work. So you're looking at people that are coming into the lobby, making simple reports, lost found properties is a big one, or abandoned vehicles, traffic stuff that's not criminal. You're looking at those kind of projects that you're taking on in the lobby. People will come in and have issues that you kind of have to sort out and solve and figure out where it needs to go from there. That's most of what you're doing during day shift. And then you're running LEAN, which is the Law Enforcement Information Network. Have you talked about that at all in here?
I don't think we have, but you can go ahead and explain it a little bit if you want to.
It's like what people consider like the system that you run people in. That's where people have warrants. That's where people have stolen vehicles. That's where you find all of these other various things that allow officers to perform their functions. So when they're out on the road, they're going to a call. You're looking into that call to figure out, okay, who's there? Do they have warrants? What's registered to them? Do they have guns? You're kind of breaking it down so it's safer for them, better for them, and so they can go in knowing as much information as they can rather than kind of going in blind and figuring it out as they go. So those are, like, I would say, the primary functions of it. And then obviously when somebody makes an arrest, you're assisting with booking. Since our jail has been closed, a lot of that is more of like an online booking system where you're getting people sent to the jail for the proper charges, figuring out what those charges need to be, getting criminal histories and stuff like that.
Nice. So, Officer Osborne, a lot of the stuff that Officer DeGraff is talking about, it seems like there's a lot of communication between not only citizens in the community, but also other officers that work for the Holland Department of Public Safety. And I would imagine that it crosses over into other agencies as well. Can you talk about your time as a cadet and how those communication skills that you utilized as a cadet transferred to your law enforcement career?
Yeah, sure. I think that one of the best things about the cadet program is getting to know the officers and then also learning how to talk to people, whether it's inmates or, deputies from other departments or officers from other departments, and then just people that come into the lobby, like Spence said. Sometimes they're coming in angry or upset or something, and then it's just you and them for a while until an officer gets there. And that just really amps up the learning process for when you get into police work where you're a full-time officer and you have to do this. It gives you a really good jump on that, I think.
Thank you for that. So I've had the opportunity, obviously, to watch a lot of, not Officer Osborne here because he's been a police officer longer than I have, but for you and others, it seems to me that the cadets here at Holland, it's very hands-on. I see the work you guys do at Tulip Time. I know that you guys are out there writing 2 to 5s. Is there some hands-on work that allows you to get out from behind the desk and actually go kind of do your own exploring and things of that nature?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a big thing that drew me to Holland's cadet program to begin, was the fact that it is so interactive. It's not you sitting there and typing paper all day. You're not taking care of desk stuff all day. It very much is officers will come to you and say, hey, let's go do this. Let's get you this experience and let's have you do that. My favorite was always training, which is partially run by Officer Osborne. That is the huge learning opportunity. That was my favorite part of being a cadet. You get involved in that. So for me as a cadet, or when I was a cadet, it was more of a role player standpoint. So you get to see things from how an officer responds to something, how an officer reacts to something. And a lot of times they would allow me to integrate myself. So then I would be acting as an officer, still as a cadet. So you get to see how both sides of those functions work and how it appears, and kind of what happens in that. Yeah, and like you said, 2 to 5s are a really big one. So,
Can I stop you a second?
oh,
Before
100%.
I think Spence made a really good point there on the whole thing with the training aspect. It's a two-way street, and the more a cadet is willing to get involved in things, the richer their experience is going to get. And I think that the officers at Holland also do a really good job of integrating the cadets into aspects of training, or ride-alongs and things like that, where they actually get to see things that a lot of other departments don't get to see. So that's a really good point, and I think that we really don't want to gloss over that, because that's one of the really good things about that program.
Oh, yeah.
So we're kind of skipping around a little bit, but this is bringing up a point. I know Officer DeGraff is not going to speak on this, but Officer Osborne and I are big into the recruiting and mentorship program at Holland PD. And one of the benefits that we get to see is we actually get to recruit our own cadets. And we tell our cadets every day that, every day is a job interview. So make sure when you show up to work, you're ready to work, because a lot of our cadets, they do want to be full-time officers. Officer Osborne, I want to ask you, because we had the opportunity to interview Officer DeGraff and watch him go through the interview process, and I think you would say the same thing. There was no doubt that he was prepared, he was ready to go. There was no doubt when he came to the scenario portion of it that his experience as a cadet with us helped him through that process. And I think that's the goal for our cadets, is to really find out, is this a profession for you? Is this something that you want to pursue? And at the same time, for us, we get to look at your character, we get to look at your work ethic. And did we see that with Officer DeGraff when he recently went through the interview process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that there was probably anybody better prepared than this guy. I know that he came to you, he came to me, we did some mock interview stuff, asked some questions about what does this look like going through an interview. And Spence, I think probably you felt more prepared as a result of that, I'm hoping.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We took a long ride together down to the range and talked about, just interview questions and how best to deal with those so that you're not nervous going into it. And I think you touched on the whole two-way street thing. I mean, the cadets get to see what the department has to offer and what the officers are like, but also the officers and the upper administration get to see what this person is like character-wise and work ethic-wise and stuff like that. So it's a lot less of a guess than just taking somebody right off the street from both sides.
Absolutely. And so qualification-wise, to be a cadet, for somebody that's listening right now, what are some of the basic qualifications that you need in order to apply for the job?
Yeah, I would say the 3 big ones, and they're not difficult. I mean, you have to have an interest in law enforcement. That's by and large number one. There has to be some desire to want to be an officer or in law enforcement in some capacity. You have to be attending college. So graduating high school and going to college to get a degree. Those, I would say, are the 2 big ones. And then Officer Osborne kind of touched on it, but character. Our core values at the department are held super, super high. I mean, that was when I was going through the hiring process. That was one of the biggest questions, right, was how do you enact the core values? Like, how does your character represent them? And the same goes for the cadets, too. That was a question in the cadet interviews that I went through. And it doesn't blatantly say core values, but they ask you about your honor, your integrity, your respect, dedication, compassion, and all these things, and how you highlight that. And I think you have to bring that to the table too. You have to be someone who has a character of integrity, of honesty, and also compassion. I think that's a very big thing at our department. That's slightly different than other departments. Is our care for the community, right? It's huge here. I have not, as my time as a cadet, as my time as an officer, there's not been a single time where I've said, oh man, that was bad. He was really disrespectful to that person. That was, I hope this one doesn't get out there. Like, there's never been a time where I've been in a situation where I've been embarrassed for that to be released. And I think that just speaks to the culture of Holland PD.
Absolutely. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that we've seen this in recruiting, and there's a lot of people just as they're getting out of high school and college and stuff like that that maybe haven't asked themselves those kind of questions, like how does my character play into a really difficult situation that I've experienced or whatever. And I think that this cadet opportunity can kind of force you to look at yourself that way in an introspective way, and just really see not only how you would answer a question like that, but what do you really believe about that in yourself.
Good. Now, when you're working as a cadet, what hours do you work? I mean, is it like normal restaurant hours, or what type of hours do you work?
Yeah, I started as a cadet in 2020. So we were in like peak COVID when I started there. So things were a little bit different due to staffing levels. We were at 12-hour shifts, which I loved, but we fluctuated between a 12-hour shift and an 8-hour shift. Ultimately, the normal shift is an 8-hour shift, so you're working from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and then someone's working from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. It kind of varies, which is really nice because you get experience in all three of those capacities, right? So do you want to be a day shift cop? Do you want to be a night shift cop? What is call type differences? Like that's a huge one, is the difference in call types that officers are going to, but also the work you do as a cadet is very big. So yeah, you're working all three of those shifts 7 days a week.
And do you do that now as an officer?
As an officer, I'm working 12-hour shifts, and I'm on days now through training. I was mostly on nights, but once you're on your schedule, you stick to your schedule, and it's.
But you can work varying hours. You could maybe next year go to midnights.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we have our shift bid in September, where I put in for okay, where do I want to go, and you have places you can move. Do you want to be a community policing officer on day shift? Do you want to be on day shift? You can be traffic on nights or days. You can be a patrol officer nights or days. And so you do get a lot of that variability of you get to kind of decide what is my schedule going to look like.
And this is a paid position. You do get paid hourly for your time there. But also, do you feel as though what you get out of being a cadet is more than just about pay?
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a lot of times where I volunteered my time just for certain experiences, whether that was a platoon training 1 month of going down and where they're shooting rifles or handguns or what have you, being able to join that or join a training for my own time. There are also plenty of times where I got paid for it, and that's great. But even let's say you don't become an officer from being a cadet, the life skills that you take away from that are so much more than just the money. The money's great. I mean, cadets get paid very, very well in comparison to other agencies at Holland. So that's super nice. But the learning how to talk with people, learning how to interview is a big one. Learning how to do good is a huge one. And you get to see that firsthand and feel like you get to make a difference, where in a lot of areas you don't get those opportunities.
And if somebody was interested in applying for the cadet position at the Holland Department of Public Safety, and once again, we're here talking with Officer Osborne and Officer DeGraff about our cadet program, how would somebody go about applying for a cadet position at the Holland Police Department?
Yeah. They make it super streamlined, super simple. You can find the application at cityofholland.com. You can go into open jobs and submit an application through there. HollandPD.com. You can also go through there in the same process, but you could call literally the dispatch, the non-emergency dispatch line, and say, hey, I'm graduating high school. I would like to be a cadet. And they can get you in touch with somebody that you need to be. You can stop into the station. There's really, we're a 24/7 business, right? Like we are always open. We are always moving. So whether you find us on the street, you can talk to us. Everybody's willing to give you an email to get you in the right direction so you can go. So it's mostly about who are you willing to reach out to ultimately, because, I mean, you could just call the front desk and they'll get you somebody's email as well. So,
Thank you for that. And that kind of moves us into shifting gears here to Officer Osborne. But Officer Osborne is a member of our recruiting team, and we see a lot of people that contact us, whether it be for a cadet position, whether it be for a law enforcement position. But a lot of times we're getting contacted when these candidates are in high school. Some of them may be in college. But I was wondering, last year you had the responsibility of running our first ever summer recruit academy. And we saw upwards of 15 to 20 students that participated in that Academy. I just was wondering, are we doing that again this year? And could you give the audience just a little information on our Summer Recruit Academy?
Yeah, we are doing it again this year. It was so well received last year that we are doing it again, and we're excited to be, streamlining it even more, offering even more opportunities. It's been great in so many different aspects. And yeah, I mean, you had a big hand in that. It's you kind of pushed for it from the beginning, and I think that it played out probably as good as it could have. And yeah, we're just excited for another time, another opportunity to do it again.
So who can attend this academy?
Yeah, so it's open to juniors and seniors in high school, and then anybody in college. And then kind of like the cadet thing, like it has to start out with an interest in law enforcement. I think a lot of people are interested in law enforcement, but when they really get down to it and see what's involved in it, that kind of whittles some people out of the whole equation because there's more to it than you see on TV. And this is all about exposing you to different facets of the department, different job descriptions within the department, different units, and then just immersing yourself in that.
And so when we look at the Summer Recruit Academy, I know last year we were able to find several cadets out of that. So they attended our Summer Recruit Academy, and based off that experience, they enjoyed the culture, the fit. We saw a need and added them onto our staff. So just going back to what Officer DeGraff said is another way if you're thinking, maybe I'm interested in law enforcement, well, maybe you try this program out to really see. And the one thing that I love about this program is how hands-on it is. When Officer Osborne talks about when this academy is, it's going to be in the summer. It's 3 hours. But let me tell you, this is hands-on experience that I don't think you're going to get anywhere else. And I'm going to ask Officer Osborne just to give one of the examples from last year that the students that participated in our academy were able to do.
All right, I'm going to go against you and give you two just because they're very different. So, like you said, it's very immersive. It's not sitting in a classroom just listening to someone drone on about a topic. It's about putting you in that situation. So, in the investigation portion of that, we set up a mock crime scene. And
I was going to talk about that one.
I stepped all over your toes there. I'll let you run with it in a second. But it was that allowed people to do kind of a start to finish thing, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there was a community cookout with the community policing unit that the participants were able to go to a local apartment complex and host a community cookout, and that was also really well received.
Yeah, just to piggyback on Officer Osborne's topics that the students got to attend, in the criminal investigations division, we did a mock homicide crime scene. So what the students were able to do is they were divided up based on interest, whether they wanted to do some forensic / evidence teching, whether they wanted to be an interviewer, whether they wanted to be in the command post where they were basically organizing all the information that comes in on homicide investigations. And it was really well received. It was just very interesting to see who was reading Miranda rights, were they under arrest. The questions that the students had were awesome. And that's what we were trying to generate, is just getting students to think what goes through a police officer's head when they arrive on scene, what goes through their mind when they're interviewing somebody. And that's what you're going to get in this academy. You're going to get it in the traffic division. You're going to get defensive tactics. You're going to get some range work. We have a live simulator that you will be going through. So just a lot of opportunities for you to get some hands-on experience. And what I see students turn into motivated students, because now they're not just doing book application. They're actually doing police work. And to see that motivation just kind of excel, it's great to see. So I'm very excited that we're doing this academy again. Can you explain when this academy is going to take place, and then how interested students can get signed up?
Yeah, definitely. So let me just quick go back to something that you were saying, though. Just keeping touch with some of these participants that went through last year. Like you said that we took some cadets from there, and we did. That was great. We also had one person set up with the ATF for an internship related to that. And then also just, think about this as far as even on a job application if you went into sales and something completely apart from law enforcement, you went through this program, you can speak to that. You can, we are happy to help people find stuff like that. But, it's going to help you whether you go into law enforcement or not. But yeah, so this year's Summer Academy is going to be starting June 18, and it wraps up on July 30. We chose Tuesday mornings. It worked out well last year because just it allows people to have their afternoons free. It starts from at 9 a.m. and it goes until noon every day. So it's a 6-week program, and like you said, it's it's anywhere between 15 and 25 kids that are involved with this.
And will you max that out if we get to like 25 kids? Will you close that down?
That's a good question. We've kind of talked about that. I don't know. At some point you'd have to cap it because otherwise you're going to take away from the advantages of the program because it gets too big. But we'll just kind of see where we go with it, and I don't know what the threshold is on the capacity there, but we'll play it by ear.
All right, and lastly, I just wanted to ask you this, and we didn't really talk about this, but for somebody that's out there that is maybe like, well, I want to go more to the federal level, or I want to go and work for GRPD or any other agency, we're big in just trying to find the right fit for any person that's interested in law enforcement. Can you just kind of talk about our culture as a recruiting team and what we're about as far as not just trying to find people for the Holland Department of Public Safety, but anywhere in law enforcement?
Yeah, I think it would be easy to say that, our job is to recruit people for Holland PD, and that's our number one job, but it's not our number one job. Our job is to expose people to experiences and see if Holland PD is something that they would like to do as a job. If it's not, we're glad to help people get into other departments. If that involves setting them up with ride-alongs or some kind of contact at a different department, we're happy to do that. And if it's just saying, hey, I thought law enforcement was for me, but it ends up that it's really not for me, that's fine too. We just want to help you find where you belong, wherever that might be.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank Officer DeGraff again for coming in and talking about our cadet program at the Holland Department of Public Safety. And then also Officer John Osborne, who spoke about his time as a cadet. And then also we're excited to really release those dates for the 2024 Summer Recruit Academy. You can find that information will be posted on our Facebook page, and it's also going to be put on our website as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Can I add my email on there and just say?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So if you have any questions about the Summer Recruit Academy, my email is j.osborn, OSBORN, @cityofholland.com. Reach out to me. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We can have a phone conversation. You can come in and talk about it if you want. That's fine. So happy to answer those questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
For patrolling for recruits, we'll be signing off. We'll be 1042.